If you're looking to buy a 4-seat family car and money's no object, you'd probably think Rolls-Royce or Bentley, maybe a Mercedes S-Class. Why not simply have a Ferrari? Plenty of room in the boot for a week's worth of luggage, and plenty of room in the back, unless you've got 6-foot-tall children. But, of course, it's behind the wheel where I want to be. It may have taken me a couple of years to get my hands on this GTC4 Lusso, but I'm sure it's been worth the wait. And all you have to do is to fire up that 6.3-litre V12 under the bonnet to put a smile on your face. Although I couldn't make it to the launch of this GTC4, well, to be honest, I wasn't invited. I did, however, make it to the launch of its predecessor, the Ferrari FF, or the Ferrari 4, to give it its full and proper name. And I have to say I was mightily impressed. They even took us to the ski slopes of Brunico in the Dolomites to show us just how well the four-wheel drive system works. To give the car four-wheel drive, instead of sticking the usual differential in the middle of the car, they stuck a little gearbox on the front of the big V12 engine. There's 2 forward gears and 1 reverse, putting power to those front wheels. When you're in first and second, it uses one of the gears. Third and fourth, it uses the second gear at the front. And then when you're in 5th, 6th or 7th, no power goes to the front wheels, all to the rear. It becomes rear-wheel drive. By doing this, they created a four-wheel drive system that's 50% lighter than the traditional setup. With the FF, the brain box underneath only allowed a maximum of 30% of the torque to go to those front wheels. But now with this GTC4, up to 90% of the torque can go to one wheel alone. And talking of torque, the V12 under the bonnet now has an extra 14 Newton meters of torque and another 30 horsepower, taking the total up to 690, which will launch you to 62 in just 3.4 seconds and take you on to a maximum speed of 208 miles an hour. If you can find a runway long enough, that is. Right, I think it's time to get this Ferrari out of town and stretch its legs. Being an evolution of the FF, the GTC4 obviously has the same overall look, but there are quite a few subtle differences. The front grille is now much wider with 3 horizontal bars instead of 2, and there's a little bib spoiler on each corner to add a bit of extra downforce. The rear has been redesigned though with more wider, aggressive wheel arches and a diffuser that's now got a V keel in the middle and then vertical fences to help pull that air out from under the car, accelerate the airflow, keep the speed up and give more downforce. But the biggest giveaway is the fact that we've now got twin rear lights, more traditional with Ferraris, instead of the single ones on the FF. The quality of the interior, like all Ferraris, is pretty much as good as it gets. There's just quality finishes wherever you look, apart perhaps from these rather plastically air vents. But there's lovely bits of carbon fibre wherever you look, and this beautiful leather is Bordeaux coloured in this particular car. Bordeaux, of course, being the colour of the vintage wine you'll open when you arrive at your private south of France villa, or chateau, perhaps. I won't bother to mention the shape of the steering wheel or the fact the paddles aren't attached to it. I think we'll all just have to agree to disagree on that one. It is, though, a nice steering wheel to hold, albeit with far too many buttons on it to operate. But the one little button we all love is the Manettino Switch, Ferrari's famous options modes. We can go from comfort to sport to ESC off. Or back the other way, to wet. It's a bit slippery. One extra one, of course, you have on the four-wheel drive Ferraris is snow. But then there's not much of that around here to put that to the test. One other button you might want to use, but only if you're in sport mode or ESC off, and that's the little suspension swap from sport to bumpy road. I wonder what that says in Italian cars. Bumpy road. Bumpy road. But what impresses me most about this car, designed to be a long-distance cruiser, is the way this 1,900 and something kilogram car feels so agile. It does take these bumpy roads, especially in comfort mode. It seems to soak up all the little hollows. It doesn't throw the car around. And it feels a much more light and nimble car, quite agile. And a lot of that's due to this new rear-wheel steering they've introduced. A system so many cars are having now that just helps that rear end turn, or rotate, as modern journalists love to say. By using a trans-axle layout that combines the gearbox and the rear differential together at the back of the car, they've managed to keep the weight split 53% to the back, 47% to the front. And before I go any further, can I just point out to all journalists that keep on saying 50-50 is the perfect weight distribution? It's not, just because BMW have been saying it for the last 30 years or more. Formula One cars are 50-50. What you want is more of the weight over the driven wheels, whichever they may be. So, the Ferrari, mainly rear-wheel drive, has 53% at the back, giving me better traction, giving me better handling, giving me more joy to drive. Wonderful though this car may be, there is still one thing that I don't think is an improvement on the FF, and that's the name, the GTC4 Lusso. I mean, Ferraris of old, it was always the number they had, a number that also meant something. Sometimes it was pretty bizarre. For example, the first V12 2+2, the forerunner of this very car, was the 250. The 250 was named because each of the 12 cylinders had 50cc. That was replaced by the 365 GT4, 4-seat GT car, where, you've guessed it, each cylinder was 65cc. Then the predecessor to the FF was the 612, the Scaglietti. That was quite simply a 6-litre, 12-cylinder car. Although, okay, it wasn't actually 6 litres, it was 5.7. And the Italians, they always round things up. But now, the FF, that was okay. It wasn't numbers, but it was the Ferrari 4, 4-wheel-drive, 4 seats. Let's face it, GTC4 Lusso is a bit of a mouthful. But, as the saying goes, what's in a name? £3,360 for the passenger's instrument display. My wife really wouldn't want to know. She wouldn't. And £7,000 for having an historical Ferrari paint scheme. In this case, Grigio Ferro, or iron grey to you and me, which apparently was very famous in the Ferraris of the 50s. All of which means that this particular Ferrari GTC4 Lusso, along with about 34 more extra options, all of which are listed on a plaque in the boot, would set you back a mere £332,395. Worth every blip of the throttle. Oh, come on. I just keep changing up and down. The lights on the steering wheel go dancing. Mind you, you could actually save yourself £40,000 by opting for the new T version of the car. That's got a 3.9-litre, 610 horsepower turbocharged V8. But why go for a muffled old turbo when you can have the full V12 orchestra accompany you all the way?